Hello and welcome to this video. Today what we're going to do is we're going to make our second model. And remember, a month ago you made a model of the solar system on register tape, similar to the one that I'm showing you in this video. Now it's time to make the model of your exoplanetary system. So the first thing you need to do is get the materials. So what materials do you need? You're going to need more register tape. You're going to need, so you need your register tape. You're going to need your ruler. You're going to need the objects you use to draw the planets. You're going to need your colored pencils. And you will need an object to draw your star. Now, the item that you need for your star is dependent on the size of your star. If your star is a yellow dwarf like the sun, you can use the same object you used for the sun. If your star is an orange dwarf, you need an object that's slightly smaller than the object you used for the sun. And if your star is a red dwarf, you need an object that's smaller than the sun, but also bigger than Jupiter. It's a small star, but it's much smaller than an orange dwarf or a yellow dwarf like the sun. So you need all those supplies, plus what you need is your data. So I suggest that you go get the data on your exoplanetary system and write it down on a piece of paper. If you have a printer, you can print out your data if that's easier. But you want your data for your system. You're not using my data that's shown on the screen. You're using your data for your exoplanetary system. So the data that you need is, you need the mass of your star and the name of your star, and you need to know whether it is a yellow dwarf, an orange dwarf, or a red dwarf, and some of you might even have a yellow white dwarf, which will be even bigger, a little bit bigger than the sun. You need to know all your planets. You need to know how far away your planets are from its star. You need to know the size of the planet. For instance, my planet B, I've got my astronomical unit distance of 0.027, and I've got that it's a subterran. You need that also. And then you also need to know what the habitable zone range is. And you have calculated that information in the activities that we did yesterday and the day before. So you need that as well. The habitable zone range for my imaginary system, which is based on the mass of the star, is 0.085 to 0.17 astronomical units. All right, so what I want you to do right now is stop the video and go get all of those materials and your data, and then come back and continue to play the video. All right, welcome back. So now it's time to go ahead and start your model. And the first thing you want to do is get a piece of paper that is the correct length. So what you want is, you want a piece of paper that is 20 centimeters longer than what you need. So you can either work with a strip of paper and then cut it down afterwards, or you can cut it at the beginning. So how you determine this is, you find the object that is its greatest distance from its star, and for me it's planet E at 2.5 astronomical units, and we are going to use as our scale 10 centimeters is equal to 1 astronomical unit. So I have 2.5 astronomical units, so I'm going to take 2.5 times 10, and that gives me 25 centimeters. So that is how long my that's how long my system will be, 25 centimeters. And I want to also check my habitable zone, because it could go beyond the distance of the greatest planet. So you want to check that too. but my habitable zone only goes out to 0.17, so I do not need to think about that as far as the length of my paper. So my paper is going to be 25 centimeters plus 20 centimeters, which will be 45 centimeters long. Okay, that's how long I need my paper to be. So, but I'm going to go ahead and make my system, and then I'll cut my paper later. Okay, so the first thing we're going to put on our system is our star, and my star is small. It's only 1/4 the size of the sun. It is a red dwarf. It is smaller than the sun. So I want to make sure that I go get something that has a smaller curve than I used for the sun. So here is my cup that I'm planning to use for my red dwarf, and it does have a smaller curve than the object I used for the sun. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. So of course, if your star is a yellow dwarf, you should use the same object you use for the sun. If your star is a yellow dwarf, use the same object that you used for the sun. And then because my star is a red dwarf, I'm going to color my star red. If your star is an orange dwarf, you're going to color your star orange. If your star is a yellow dwarf, you're going to color your star yellow. So mine is a red dwarf, so I'm going to color it red. All right, so I've got my star colored red, and you don't have to work as fast as me. I'm making a video, and I don't want you sitting around watching me color a red star. All right, so there's my star, my red dwarf. And now I'm going to go ahead and add my the planet that's closest. Now my planets are all in order, but yours might not be. Yours might be out of order because remember, they're named by letters according to the order they were discovered in. So yours might not be in the correct order as far as distance from the star, but mine are. So my first one is that, and I need to multiply this by 10. So 0.027 times 10 is just moving the decimal point one place. So it's 0.27 centimeters. All right, and that is 2.7 millimeters. So that's pretty close. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my ruler and I'm going to measure 2.7 millimeters. 2.7 millimeters. So that's almost 3. 1, 2, 3, right there. And that planet is a subterran. So I'm going to use the same object I used for Mercury or Mars. So, and because I used the same object for that, and that is the penny. And I'm going to put it there. Now, ideally, it should be in the center, but I'm going to put it there. Remember when we made this model, this was a distance model. It was not the scale that we use for the size of the stars and the planets was not to scale. It was only the distance that was to scale. And I'm going to wait to color it, okay? But this is my B planet, so I'm going to label it B. And I'm also going to label it with the astronomical unit distance. So 0.027 AU. All right, my next one is planet C at 0.12 astronomical units, and I need to multiply that by 10. So that's 1.2 centimeters. All right, and then I'm going to use my nickel because that's what I used for Terrans. This is a Terran, and I use my nickel. I use my nickel for the Earth, which is a Terran. So I'm going to use my nickel. And this has to be at 1.2 centimeters. All right, so I'm going to put my ruler back down from the edge of my star. 1.2 is right there. Oh, look at that. And they're going to overlap. So I'm going to put that right there. And I'm going to trace that. All right, and then I'm going to label that one C at 0.12 AU. Okay, and then my planet D is at 0.23 astronomical units. I need to multiply that by 10. So that's 2.3 centimeters. And it is also a Terran. So I'm going to use my nickel again. And I need 2.3, and I'm measuring it from my star. 2.3, 1, 2, 3 is right there. So I'm going to put my nickel down there, and I'm going to trace it. Now, I've got a lot of overlap here, so I'm going to clean it up a little bit. Now, that's planet D, and that is at 0.23. Okay. And then I might as well go ahead and put my last one on there. My last one is at 2.5 astronomical units. And I already multiplied that. That's 25 centimeters. All right, 25 is out here. Let me show you that again because I didn't have it in the camera view. 25 is right there. And that one is a Neptunian, and I'm going to use my quarter for that one. There. And that is my planet E, and that distance was 2.5 astronomical units. Okay. Now, this looks kind of messy down here. I'm going to color these, but I need to make a decision on how I want to color them. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to erase part of this. Like, now remember, the planets aren't actually overlapping like this in reality. They aren't overlapping like this in reality. Our distance is the correct is just the correct scale, but our the size of our planets is not to the correct scale. Okay. All right. So I've decided I've erased some of it. I'm going to color this one as planet B. This section here is planet C, and this as planet D. But before I color, I need to identify one more thing, and that's the habitable zone. So the habitable zone is this measurement here, 0.085 to 0.17 astronomical units. So again, I need to convert this to my scale in centimeters. So that's 0.85 centimeters to 1.7 centimeters. So now I need to mark that. So I'm going to do that down along the edge, I think. I can't get a hold of the ruler now. So I want it to be at the edge here. So I'm going to come down like this a little bit. So if I was eyeballing it down, I'm going to start about right there. I can't get a hold of this ruler. All right, so 0.85 is right there. Right there. And 1.7 is right there. Okay, so then I'm going to draw a vertical line at the boundaries like that. And my other one's right here. Okay, that's my habitable zone. And I'm going to color the habitable zone green. So I need to sharpen my pencil a little bit. And color that region in green. Okay, that's the habitable zone. And then I'm going to label it. Okay, and that is 0.8. Whoops, I'm writing the centimeter one. 0.085 to 0.17 AU. Okay, now I'm going to color my planets, and since I don't know what they look like, I'm going to use my imagination. So I have one here. Remember where they started is where their distance is. So this middle one is actually in the habitable zone. So I think I'm going to give it some water and some land. So I'll make some random continents here. Okay. And I'm going to give it some liquid water. Since it can possibly be in the habitable zone, I'm going to kind of make it look habitable. So if someone's looking at this, they can they'll have it that, hey, that one might be habitable. All right. And then I can't decide what I want to do. This one, I'm just going to do a little of that. Give it a little bit of color. Okay. And then I've got one more there. How about, I didn't want to use red. I wanted to show that maybe one had some iron oxide on it. And I already have a red star, so I'm going to use this. Let's add a little bit of black to it to give it a little bit of contrast. Okay. And then I've got this one. This is a Neptunian, so it's kind of a gas giant of some type. So let's give it some clouds like our gas giants. Okay. And since all the gas giants in our system have rings, why not give this one some rings? I mean, you can do whatever you want, because this is where you're using your imagination. Okay. And then let's give it a storm system like Jupiter and Jupiter and Neptune. And I'm going to put some rings on it. Why not? Okay, all right. So then I still need to cut it at the end, but I didn't bring scissors. So I'm going to cut it at the end, but I also need to write the name of my system on there. So I'm going to write my system is Hawk 62. So that goes on the end. You should have some paper left at the end. And then your name, okay? All right, so then to turn this in, you have an option just like you did before. You can take pictures and insert it into a Google slide presentation. So, but when you do that, what I want you to do is I want you to line up your other one with it, the other one you made, and then line up the stars at the edge like this, so their edges meet. Here, let me use that. Line up the stars so their edges meet like that. And then take pictures to show where things are in relation to our system. So if I were doing this, I would take 2 pictures for my system. I would take one here, and then I would take one to show that this planet is where our asteroid belt is. I would take 2. Oh, make sure you get the name of your system on there. Okay, I would take one here, and I would take one here for this one, but you have to decide. Now, if you want to do the movie, because that was an option for the other time, then I want you to do a movie showing the 2 side by side, and you only have to go to the end of yours. So yes, that would be a very short movie for this one. All right, guys, that is how you make your model. Remember, you are using your material, your data. You are not using my data for Hawk 62. You are using the data for your system. All right, thank you for watching this video. Have a good day.